Again, Mike Ritsema here with i3 Business Solutions and Tim Nass and Grace Shim running the show. We're all at different locations, so we might dialogue a little bit to make sure we're seeing the right screen and sharing properly as we work through this. Microsoft Teams for Office 365 Home Work Edition, the COVID-19 Coronavirus Edition. And we're going to try and give some training and orientation. We're going to move fast through this. Again, it will be recorded. We'll share this presentation with you so you can slow it down and work through it. So I like to pause for a minute and say, what are we trying to do and why Teams and why not Outlook and what's changing? But certainly technology marches on. And what's the objective? What's the end result? What are we trying to do in business? And I maintain the answer is we're trying to get 3 or 4 things done, but the 3 main ones are productivity. Can we maintain productivity, especially during this time? Home office work. How do we maintain productivity so that we can maintain profitability in order to pay the bills? And then we also want to really keep an eye on risk, and that risk in this case is technology risk. We know that security from a home office, especially from a home PC, this exposes different security risks. So we want to maintain productivity of our organization, profitability, and maintain the technology security so that we can deliver business results in these unprecedented times. And that's what we'll talk about today. So at i3, we're trying to accelerate business results. That involves 3, people, process, technology, kind of the wheel here. And I always say technology is easy. Really, Teams works. Had one customer who started using Teams last week, Monday, and on Friday, he said, I'm a specialist. I mean, this stuff works. But I remember the old days in the 90s with IBM, when we had to have physical signatures on any order that we delivered. And so FedEx was hot. I mean, we'd run out, get a signature, and had to FedEx it to the corporate office. And then it was a big moment when they accepted faxed signatures. I mean, we could get a signature, fax it to them. That was a live order. Remember the days of 800 conference calls when we had a free 800conferencecalling.com located somewhere in Kansas because of some regulatory rule. And so the way we got together was with 1-800-conference call, and 6-10 people dialed in and fought over the phone that way. And then, when we had to schedule meetings for tomorrow or the next day, and doing emails and group emails, and didn't you see the email, and carbon copy emails, which I don't look at. Didn't you see the email? And voicemail. Remember voicemail? My goodness, I don't know the last time I got a voicemail. And when I do, it's unusual. I read the text. It's all texting. It's Teams. It's FaceTime. It's all these type of things. So technology marches on. Teams is it. I will tell you that Microsoft will not email me anymore. They work exclusively with Teams internally and with their partners. Very unusual to get an email from Microsoft. So Teams is the answer. And in the bottom here, we say intelligent information integration. Certainly that is technology, is information systems, not islands of information. I rail against islands of information. So technology marches on to mobile, to diverse and global, to team-based collaboration. People are on 2 times as many teams working together today as years ago. Diverse, we've got age groups, different generations who want to work together differently, and Teams enables all this. I said I rail against islands of information. There are some great systems and platforms. And certainly Apple has a $1 trillion system and platform, as does Google, which I use personally. I love the maps, the Chrome integration, the email, the way the drive, the photos, the way it comes together. And Oracle has a great platform or system, but Microsoft has this system here. Work with confidence. The security from your home office to your cloud, that ability to tighten up security and manage it is the key to, or a key to a platform or a system. That's why I rail against Dropbox, Slack, and a separate email system, 3, 4, 5, Zoom, great product, Zoom. Okay, now I've got 4 or 5 different emails and I try to pull this information together. No, I want a platform, I want a system, I want an integrated system. And that's what Office 365 gives you. It pulls together Exchange email, OneNote, Stream, your video platform for consolidating videos, pulls all these applications together. I want to make the point here that really Teams is the graphical user interface to Office 365 and SharePoint. That's the way I see it, because all Office 365 is SharePoint. SharePoint is the syncing engine. And so everything sits and is synced through SharePoint. And that is Office 365. And really, Teams is the graphical user interface to consolidate and pull it all together. We'll show you that in just a couple minutes. So that's it. It is this Office suite that comes together in this application called Teams, where we can do everything from chat and meetings to calling to apps. We'll show you the apps. We can search, we can do things faster and faster, and certainly chat. Tim's going to get deep into chat in just a couple minutes. The ability to extend. So apps are integrated to Teams. If you like Asana for productivity, if you like Trello or Slack for project management, if you like something, well, LinkedIn is integrated. SurveyMonkey. These are apps that are extended to Teams. So just want to jump right into Teams then and show you that. Some of us had SharePoint going back, or we started creating document libraries in SharePoint. And so we've got these document libraries, or we have, like i3, a SharePoint site that goes back 7, 8 years. And at i3, we've got the all team site, the management team site, sales, service, finance. And we laid them all out with OneNote notebooks and then document libraries that anybody can get to. And if I go to these different sites, you'll see that. So an example of a OneNote notebook, and the way that Teams and Office 365 come together, OneNote being a big part of it. And I've said to i3, I'll say it here, if you live in Outlook or email, then I want you living in OneNote, a way to consolidate and share information in a very efficient manner. So this is the cloud version. I'm in the browser right now, and this is our HR tab for employees in HR. And I'm showing, the COVID-19 information that we started to put into our human resources section of our notebook. So I'm going to pull OneNote on the desktop because I'm a little older generation. I like to work on the desktop as opposed to in the browser. And I will go to the all team notebook, employees HR, and I can get into that COVID-19 section right here. So this is on the desktop. This is in the cloud, in the browser. And if I go over to Teams, then I can come to Teams here, and I can go to the all team notebook, and I can go to the general team. And I have the same layout here where I've got the all team notebook and I've got document libraries in Teams. I'm looking at Teams now. And if I go to the all team notebook, the OneNote notebook that Microsoft, due to the worldwide demand for Teams, is limiting the way that it's syncing, I can get to the employee handbook. I can get to the HR section. I can get to the same information here about COVID-19. So it comes together between Teams, the cloud, and the desktop, all come together in Office 365. I want to show you one more thing in document libraries. And that is, if I go to File Explorer, you can see that the document library for general documents, I3 team documents here. This is on my desktop, so I can sync documents to my desktop. Now, some of us, again, I like to work from the application. So this is the shared document libraries in Office 365. It's synced to my desktop. If I go to the cloud, we can go to the Team I3 documents, which are in the cloud. And this icon right here, your document libraries in SharePoint, if you want to sync them to your desktop, you click on the sync icon and it will sync to your desktop. And that's what I've done here. So the I3 team documents, where we have our team meetings going back 5 years, is in the cloud. It is synced to my desktop, team meetings going back 5 years. And it is in Office 365, Team I3 documents in Office 365, which is really, again, the graphical user interface to go reach in and get those documents. So this is how Teams starts pulling our information together. And then I showed you OneNote, and I think I am going to turn things over to Tim Nass now to get into the activity feed and chat. Tim Nass, our Office 365 principal. Go ahead, Tim.
You bet. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it. Let me bring up my screen here in a minute. Maybe. We talked about that one. All right, here we go. All right, I'm going to first start by going through the first two sections in Teams. Mike's going to be looking at the Teams section, showing you a little bit more of that, and I'll also carry on with the calendar and some of the calls sections as well. But I just wanted to say, first of all, this is the interface for Teams. This is the client install. There is also the web version and also the mobile version to use. But right now, we're just going to be going through the installed client version for the PC. So right up at the top, you have the first option here is activities. Activities, a lot of times that might be the first thing you do in the morning is to look at. It's basically collecting information having to do with anything that pertains to you, things that have to go on, that will be in the feed. So any things that's happened in the last few days, as we go through that somebody either mentioned to me in a channel or anything else, that's going to show up here. That's what's called the feed. And then there is also what they call my activity. And in my activity, this is just what I have actually done action items on myself. So any things where I've actually commented or put any information, you'll find that those happen here. Both of them have a filter option where I can go ahead and go into the filter and put something in, like if I was looking for, last time I spoke with somebody, this being a message. Actually, I will show you over on the feed. Let's say last times that Alec was involved with something I was working with, all of the items that came up will show up here as well. So this, and all this pertains to anything that's happening in chat, Teams, and the rest of it. So if I go next to chat here, which is where you'll spend a lot of your time as far as any one-on-one group chats that happen, all of that activity can happen right here. You will see that also you'll see that there's alerting here showing me that if I have any active chats that I haven't actually responded to yet, they'll show that they're unread. So Joshua has one here, it's bolded, so I know that it is a chat session that him and I were in. And I can go to that and it shows me the feed and everything that we discussed at that point. If I want to create a new chat, you simply go up to the top here and I can put in somebody particular that I want to chat with. So I might say I want to talk to Mike. I can put Mike in, and it will bring up the last thing that we spoke about. So as we were prepping for this meeting and the rest of it, there was some information there, and I can say, hey, Mike. You might respond back to us in a minute, but again, it updates the time. This is always showing by the most recent activities that have happened. And as these come in, there's a couple things I wanted to show you. If I look at the actual event here, and it shows me on the ellipses, I have a couple options that I can show here. For some reason, I want to keep this as an unread item. I can create it back as an unread item. If for some reason I'm in with a bunch of people and I want to mute any conversation with it, I can click here, mute, and then it won't be alerting me or anything else on those options. But if I go back to as we first started this first chat session with Mike, if I want to add a second person in on that chat session, up here in the top right, I can just say add people. And at this point in it, it has to be anybody who's within your group or anybody who's been already added as a guest. And we'll kind of describe that a little bit more as we go. So let's say I'm going to add Grace into this conversation. And then now Grace will be in there with us as well too. So then anything that has to do with chatting that happened between the three of us will now show up there. And then if, for instance, I want to add one more person in on this chat, what happens is once we get to 3 or more people, when I go to add another person into the chat and say I want to add somebody, it's always going to come up with a message that says, do I want to include the chat history? So everything that I've already showing here in that chat history, along with the other minor options, are to just include history from how many ever days I want it to be, or I can say don't include any chat history at all. So say, for instance, if there's a conversation the two of you are having, you want to add another person in and you want them to see it, that would be an option to show all the history. For some reason, I want to make sure that they're not seeing all the conversation that I had or none at all. I could say, okay, let's bring in someone else. And I'm going to say here, let me just add a demo user into our chat. At that point, it will start with, other than maybe, at that point, that user is not going to show any more history except for a blank and then everything past the next spot as we go. And again, I was showing you if we start a new chat. And as Mike showed you a couple ways as we were showing some of the SharePoint and some of the other options, there's a lot of different ways to get to the same place. So I just wanted to point out as when you're in a session, in a chat session with folks, you do have options to either add a video call to this, or you can do just an audio call. Audio call is just going to do, voice, no video or anything else, but you can add either one of those in at any time. And also I can, for instance, share my screen. Because we're doing the live events, there's a lot of the stuff I can't really show you the whole thing, but if I do, say if I wanted to share one of my screens, you'll get an option that's showing you what options you want to share. So you've got the option between sharing just a single screen or sharing an actual window that's out there of any application that's running at this point on my machine.
Yeah, and Tim, at that point, if you do a phone call or a video call, it basically rings everybody on that chat. True or not?
Yes, absolutely. It gives everybody an option to join right into that meeting at that point. Mm-hmm. So then if on this, for instance, let's say that this is a project that we're going to keep going on, one of the things we can do with any of these that are history here as they go, I can tell it that I want to pin this conversation between the three of us. So if I pin it, it will add it up in here to my pinned messages that I have. And it is showing here the one that we have between the three of us. If for some reason I want to make sure that I understand that this was a particular project we were working on, I can always go up to the top of the screen here, edit, and change the name of this group. So I can say this was the demo project. and then save it at that point. Now, I want to show there's a couple options now between that group. So you'll see it's changed the demo project name here. Now between this group, if I want, I can add files to what we're discussing, whether it comes from just doing it in the chat or clicking over here on the files. And I can say, I want to add another file in here. And so let me see, I'm going to say I'm going to share. And I can either pull something from my computer or I can pull something from the OneDrive that I already have. I click on the OneDrive, it'll give me this option for the different files that I can take from. And let's just say if I was doing documents, well, I should find one that we have, of course. And let me just add this PowerPoint right here. And at that point, the beauty of adding this on here now is that it is shared from my OneDrive to everybody else in the group. So if anybody in the group is actually editing the file, it's editing my copy of it. It's not a separate copy that's different. So it continues to be edited and moved along with everybody who's in the group.
Tim,
yeah,
I want to jump in here and say that one of the challenges that I have is in managing all the to-dos from our ERP, our PSA system, our centralized accounting system, service system, CRM system, you know, those to-dos from the calendar, from meetings, from email, from Teams. And that's where I'll mark it as unread, or pin it. So how do I keep track of stuff I have to get back to and do? And I take a look at something, oh crap, they want an answer from me, but I'm too busy right now. I mark it as unread and I'll come back to it later. That's the benefit of that, right?
Yep, again, right there, marking it as unread, so you remind yourself to come back to it at some point or another, just so you know. And then if I can, just so people know, there's another option here. Again, if you imagine, there's a point where you start to work on teams, and Mike will get into that, and it's more about really trying to organize groups. They're going to be long-term conversations and the rest of it. But sometimes these groups that you know, that would just bubble up and start making could be something that goes for a few months. In that case, there are a few things you might want to add to it, as far as, say, for instance, when this group is active, I can always go up here to the top for the tab, and I can add in features that are going to be specific just to this chat. So let's say there's a website that we always need to go to for this, and for ease, I'll just say it's the office login, and I'll put the URL in here. And you always have an option to post to the chat. I will leave it on at this point so you see what it looks like. If I hit save, what it's done is put another tab up here at the top for the office login. Now that could be any URL, something that during that project and what you're working on that you want to make sure that other people, you know, that you're always getting back to it when you guys are discussing stuff. So what will be there, the files, and then if I look back at the chat, everyone will see that in the chat, it'll show that I added that website to our conversation and what's going on. Now, there's a lot of different ways to do alerting here. And we had talked, Mike likes a lot to do with the mentions, and we like them as well. Let's say, for instance, I want to make sure that Grace knows that I was discussing something important, that I want to make sure that she was involved. She might have a lot of different conversations that are going on. There's always this option to say, it's what we call an @Grace. So we put the @ in, and it'll bring up the list of users. I can choose a user here and say, hey, Grace, back in. And at this point, the way the alerting shows is that this will automatically send her an email as well, along with a banner on her screen letting her know that that I am specifically looking to speak with her. So that depending on however our alerting is, it'll make sure that she knows that I'm looking to speak with her. Mike, any other thoughts? Do you have any questions through that part there?
That's good. I just don't know why I had to call me out for the app mentions. Certainly, I do like to get people's attention with an app mention.
Yeah, no, it's all right. And I should say also on the app mentions, it's not only a particular user, but it can also be a team, a channel, as well as any groups that you already have set up in Office 365. So when I do an @ I could say a whole group. So I might say service. Let me see. I'll find one here somewhere. What was a good one?
I think you have to do that in a channel, I think, or in a.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, forgive me. There I go, shooting off on that. All right, good deal. So that's the beginning of the chat options, and I was going to move over to contacts a minute. Anything else you had there, Mike?
No, I think that's good.
Okay, all right. And then here in contacts, you have the ability to, you will have all of the users that are from the group, and you have the ability to start to organize them in different ways. So if you want to create, say in this instance, I have a project team and it has particular users that are part of the project team. You will notice one of the things I want to make sure you see is that as we go throughout the day, every user has a presence that's telling us where they're at, or what their activity level is at this point. So like in this case, the yellow is showing us that Alec has been away from his PC or just not active on it for a short period of time. Daniel is green lighted, so he is available. And now, especially with all of us at different places, the availability at this point is more showing us that we've all talked about it and said that, hey, if I say green and available, it means you're welcome to try to chat with me and get something going. You can always go back and change these options. If I click on my user, you're going to have an option here for what your presence is. So right now it's showing that I'm presenting specifically, so it won't allow anybody to interrupt me at this point, but I can change it manually anytime for available, busy, do not disturb, or I can force it to appear away. Once you set one of those, you can say appear like you're away, but you may not be. So it's a good reminder that whenever you're ready to let the whole system take care of knowing what your status is, you should reset your status, and then it'll keep track of whether you're busy or you're available during that time. And I did want to say that sometimes when you find that somebody is not available at this moment, but you specifically want to talk to them as soon as they get back, what you can do is you can click on the person's name and then say notify when available. And then that way the system will automatically, as soon as Alex, in this case, his status changes to available, it will notify me with a banner message down here on the right. And I'll also possibly an email if I've set it to have me notified that he's available, that I can talk to him. All right, at that point, and Mike, did you want to start in on the teams first? Or you want me to move over to the calendars and set up that part as well at this point?
Sure. I'll go into the teams part, and then you can, we'll try and manage our time here. It is 11:30. We're going to go till 1:45. Again, this is recorded, so you can watch it in the future if you need to leave. We have a lot of content to cover, and at the end, we'll take suggestions for what you want us to cover next week. We have a lot of subjects to cover in the coming weeks, and we'll keep doing this at 11 a.m. on Wednesdays. So I will go into the teams part right now, and I am going to show you. I need to share my screen first. Desktop. All right. My goodness. Going to the teams part. So yeah, at i3 Business Solutions, we set up basically 5 different teams. So our all company team, called the general team, is a default name, I believe. And then we've got our leadership team, the sales team, the network team, and the project team. So again, we laid those all out very similarly, if not identically. So let's talk about channels a minute. If I go to the sales team, we've got the general all sales team channel, and then we have the marketing channel, we've got our quoting improvement channel, and then we've got a new product announcement channel. So one of the things we suggest is, as you lay out teams, and in the next couple of weeks we'll get into governance, but we want to manage the number of teams. So in a perfect world, we're going to keep that number, in the 5 to 10 range, not in the 10 to 20 range. We want to govern it to make sure that people just don't create unlimited teams. Now, Microsoft, we know that they do end up with tons and tons of channels. So you also want to manage those channels. And teams, yeah, I mean, I think it is acceptable to create a new channel and say, hey, we're working on this project for 3 months. We're going to create a channel to do that. One of the recommendations by Microsoft is that you put an end date on that thing at the end of the year. And when it disappears, if somebody says, hey, where'd my channel go? You can reactivate that channel. So we really want to manage, we want to be intentional about the teams we create and the way we name them, because the way you name a team and the way you name document libraries affects the way they sync to your desktop and certainly in the cloud. And if you use the same name in every channel, it can become a little bit confusing, right? In fact, one of the standards at I3, I like to name all document libraries ending in docs, because when you go to the cloud, it's like, what is that? Is that a document library? Is that a planner? What exactly is that? So being intentional about naming the team, naming the channels, naming the document libraries is important. Every new channel that's set up comes with a wiki. We delete the wiki. My goodness, you can go in and you can choose to remove items from the channel if you have admin rights. So we're back to security. But the wiki is one that we don't use. We delete it. I'm going to jump up to the all team. And Tim, if you can unmute, I'll ask you to address this. If you've been using SharePoint in the past, then you can set up a hub, either that or it's default. Tim will speak to this. But the hub is where we pull together contents for search purposes. And can you speak to hub for just a minute, Tim?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things about teams is that every single team that gets created, behind the scenes, there is a SharePoint site that's being created along with multiple document libraries. So in some cases, it's nice to be able to have some place where we can actually pull all the information together. So partly what this is it's graphically, we're giving key locations, areas where folks may want to go, that they can go to one location. But what you can also do in one of the hub sites is actually pull in all of the document libraries so that we can pull all of the files that's based on your security. So if you don't have permission to be in a particular library, you won't be able to see that information. But it does give us, at least on the level of SharePoint, being able to have a little bit more flexibility in how we configure stuff and how we kind of bring everything together. So, yep.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, some of us are scrambling into teams and rolling this thing out. And at some point, we might want to reach out to I3 and Tim to help lay this thing out properly so that for, again, security purposes, but also just the way it comes together so that you don't end up with components scattered all over the place and causing confusion, which is what we've done here with the document libraries and the all team notebook. So let's go into a team. I'm going to go into the marketing team here and say posting. One of the things I see happening at I3 is sometimes we'll create a chat and then we'll put 5, 6 people into a chat. And at I3, our policy is that anybody can join any team. So a salesperson might say, oh, I'm interested in what's going on in the project team for some of my projects. They can join the project team. So anybody can join any team at I3 Business Solutions to know what's going on. There's a couple exceptions to that, but in the marketing channel. So I say in a perfect world, pick a team or a chat channel if you're pulling together 3, 4, 5, 6 people. That way the dialogue's right there. I've seen some chats where there's 5 or 6 people involved, and my goodness, it's the whole sales team. So why not go to the sales channel and do that? Now, when we go to create a post, I think one of the most important icons right here is the format icon. So we'll format the post, and we could put a subject in here. And we can bold the subject and so on. We can make it larger font. And then we can put in bullets. Oh, I think bullets are so important. Who doesn't want to live by bullets? So we can put in bullets. We can come in and highlight the bullets with colors and so on. So we can start formatting this thing. We can go out and we can grab an image, and we can just copy images right into here. And that is a big image that's going to go in there, but there it is. So we can put images in here. We can put links in here. If I do put a link, much like Facebook, it'll put the link right in there. So copy link, and it'll resolve that link and put it right in the post. I'll show you that in a minute. So when you're in a team, and you know, maybe we need some work at governance at i3 Business Solutions, but if there's something really important that you want to get out to the whole company, look like a broadcast email in the past, are people seeing the broadcast email? You can post into multiple channels. So this one's going into the marketing channel. And at the top here, different options. This is a new conversation. I can turn it into an announcement, which changes the format of it a little bit. I can control who can reply. I don't want everybody replying to this. This is an announcement. We're just going to put it in there. I really don't want comments about it. Can do that. But posting to multiple channels, I can select the channel. So this announcement, I want to put, okay, I'm going to share it to the whole company. I'm going to share it to the leadership team. So we can share it to multiple channels. And then we can post that thing. So I think I might remove these channels, and we'll post it and see if it resolves. Oh yeah, like Tim said, I can mention the business development team. Now they all get a notification that this thing's been up there. And yeah, bold and bullets, I talked about that. Pictures and attachments. Yeah, lots of options down here to attach files, like Tim said. We can attach files. We can put a GIF in there. I think it's very important to use GIFs often and everywhere. So, you know, it's a lot like Facebook. If you like Facebook and the ability to share in different ways, you can do it that way. So that's Teams. I mean, multiple channels, share it to the whole team, have some fun with it, etc. Use emojis, etc. So what time is it now? It's 11:40. I am going to skate over to Onenote and spend just a couple of minutes here and show you a couple things. So in Onenote, I mean, in Outlook, if you right click, I'm big into right click. Let's say there's a broadcast email that goes out at your company. It looks like an HR policy change. It looks like an announcement that that should be maintained for a year or two. Certainly we can right click on an email and put it right into Onenote. So when I see emails like this go out, group emails to the whole company, updating or requesting something, I say, where do we want that documentation? And that documentation is for the whole company. So I'm going to put that email, drop it right into Onenote in the documentation section for the whole company. So that's a powerful tool. But secondly, a little bonus item for you. Hopefully you're using drag and drop. Just got an email from Steve. He says, hey, what time can we meet? I'm not going to go back and forth and say, what time can we meet? I'm going to drag that email right into the calendar. And it opens up the calendar item and says, let's create the meeting. So we're going to create this meeting for noon today, and I'll invite Steve and others to the meeting. But look at this, I've got the Teams meeting icon here, and I can click on the Teams meeting icon. And what it does is adds the, oh my goodness, the Teams meeting to the bottom here. So oftentimes I'll, copy, paste, or delete it up to the top. So there's the Teams meeting, but then I can add my OneNote, because we use OneNote to share information. And this is going to be a recurring meeting. So I'm going to put the recurring notes in. Okay, it's going to be in the sales notebook, and I'm going to put it under huddles. And now everybody in the meeting can find it. And if I make that a recurring meeting, then that meeting, those notes are there, and the team meeting is there. And so we're starting to use the integration and the productivity of Outlook and Teams and Calendar and OneNote. All right. Coming back to Teams, I want to show you just one more thing, and then we'll start wrapping this up. Say that in the searcher command bar, we can search like Tim showed. I can search on Grace Shim, and I'm going to find all the mentions and dialogue with Grace. I can search on Microsoft, and I'm going to find all the dialogue that we've had about Microsoft and recently and so on. And then like Tim said, we can filter those searches by, I swear it was in the last week. And so I can filter that down to a date range and so on to find this specific conversation. But this is one I really like, because we do use voice at i3 Business Solutions. And so to make a phone call at i3, I can just say / and then put the phone number in there and dial a phone just like that. But the / command is very powerful. Make a note of that, the / command, because I was going through this and I noticed, what's new? What is that? The / command. And what's new in Office 365. And here's a history of it. And on March 20, they added this. That's interesting. And then another one that I'll use is / I want to have a chat. And I'm going to have a chat with Tim Nass. And I can just, are you there? I can go straight to a chat that way. So this is a very powerful command line in Office 365. All right, we're at 11:43. We're going to start wrapping this down. And Grace, do we have any questions that came in that Tim and I could address in a minute or two? Otherwise.
Yep, I have a question for Tim that came in.
Sure, go ahead.
Tim, you mentioned that the at mentions go as an email in Outlook, right? We have a question that asks, do the at mentions go to unread in Outlook every time?
Do they go to, as far as being a new message? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep, they would be a new message in unread.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, well, actually, I'll just, as another answer to that, if you go to your icon, your user icon up here, and you go to settings, where we're going to get into this, we're running out of time, and we can get into it next week. We will repeat these on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. There's a lot of content to get into, but the notifications in settings partially control some of the things you're notified on, and you can choose. It's not perfect, but you can choose banner only in the banner and email, banner only show in news feed, and it varies by area. So there's ways to control that. There's ways to control it in the channel also. So the app mentions can be controlled in different ways. So yeah, as we're wrapping up at 11:45, I would say we will hold another session next week. A couple things here. Next week, Grace is our, and actually I want to share this here. Yeah, Grace is coordinating these events, and she's the specialist here. So Grace can help you with a live event. And one of the next subjects we want to cover is how to present a live event like this, because frankly, Tim and I are clueless. I thought I had Grace's name on the screen. I don't see it right now. I did update it, but I didn't properly save it. So future subjects, live events, Grace can show us how to do that. Governance, how to manage the governance so that Teams doesn't get out of control. Etiquette, what is the etiquette for using app mentions? Yeah, that's a good question. And then suggestions from you, email Tim or me or GSHIM, that's GSHIM, Grace Shim at i3bus.com. The admin center, Tim can get into the admin center and show us some of the power of the admin center. For resources and more training, we've got about a dozen videos available from Microsoft. We can point you at those. We've got a quick start guide from Microsoft that we can send you. So again, GSHIM, GSHIM at i3bus.com. And or me or Tim, look for the invite for next week. We hope this has helped you in some way, and we'll continue to hit this subject as we're all stuck at home during the COVID-19 crisis in America.